Hi guys!
Welcome back to our podcast.
Welcome back.
Name is still TBD.
Today, if you didn't read the title, we're talking about situationships. We've all heard of them.
Oh god. I feel like there's so much media about situationships, like whether it be, and we're going to talk about this later because I feel like the media for sure like impacts how we think about situationships, but whether it be called a situationship or not, because that definition of kind of an undefined relationship is a fairly new term, you see a lot of stuff about situationships in a lot of places.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't even go on TikTok without hearing something about my humiliation ship, my maybe later ship.
There's a lot of different things. So we're going to dive in today. I think first off, we need to define what exactly a situationship is. So we did a little digging.
Lucia, do you want to tell the people?
Yes. So the official Urban Dictionary definition of a situationship is a relationship that has no label on it, like a friendship, but more than a friendship, but not quite a relationship.
What the hell does that mean?
So we're going to unpack that today.
We're going to unpack every single bit of that.
I feel like that's the best way to put it, even though it is a very confusing way to put it.
Because situationships are confusing. That's like the whole point of it. So I guess a confusing definition suits it.
Because me and Jalen were also looking on TikTok for like definition of situationship, and a lot of different things were coming up. So I feel like honestly there's not really much of a consensus on what it is because it's so confusing as a whole. Like there was a lot of TikToks, it was low-key just rage baiting us, but like they were saying like, oh, like basically describing like friends with benefits,
and they were saying that that's your situationship even if both parties agree to be in a friends with benefits situation.
Honestly, I think that that's a whole different
whole different category of relationship.
Right.
I don't think that is a situationship. Me and Lucia define a situationship as something where both parties don't agree on what the relationship should be, I would say, and one party is being misled.
Yes, exactly. Because I feel like that's where the tension of a situationship comes from. It's in
and the stress
not knowing, and like not having this defined label of like, what are we? It's just kind of like vague. And so one person might want to keep things casual, whereas the other person might want to further things, but because there's no communication happening, there's no consensus, and it's just confusion on both ends of the stick. But like, if you're both like
if both parties are consenting to this type of relationship, then I don't see why it should be an issue. I don't see why there should be, unless one party lied about it, which is like a whole other thing.
Right. And I also think like to give grace with like situations like that, I think you can definitely go into something thinking like, yeah, I can handle this, like go into something casual. I think this has happened time and time again where like, you know, it's like two people agree to something kind of light and casual, and then one person decides they want something more and the other person's not on that, not on the same page as them. I think that's totally feasible, but that's like a completely different thing, because once it's labeled, once you've talk to the other person and decided on like what we are, I feel like that's no longer situationship territory.
Yeah, I agree. And with that, Lucia and I, to start off with something a little lighter, are gonna tell you our worst situationship stories. Do you want to take it away?
No, you go first.
No!
I have to remind myself of this one a little bit because I haven't talked about it in a while. I'm actually very proud of myself, guys. This is like a big milestone for me because in talking about this, I feel like I can say that I'm officially over it.
Yeah.
Because
right.
This low-key is a humiliationship, I'm not gonna lie. I don't love like the TikTok buzzword. Like I like to keep it to as like minimalistic as possible, like one word for like a situationship. And also me and Jalen, this is just a preface, but I feel like me and Jalen are very big like situationship haters, in the sense that like most of our situationships we just like kind of call them like, oh, like we were dating that person.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in our previous episodes, how we think that instead of saying situationship, you should just say my ex, because at a certain point it's either you were dating them or you weren't. It's either an in your head ship or you're just dating them.
Yeah, exactly. I think like ex too like is usually associated with, oh, someone I was, like, officially in a relationship with. But, like, you can be dating someone and not be in a relationship. Right. And that's, like, a common thing. Like, that's what you do before you get into a relationship with someone, before you make it official. You're in, like, the dating stage of your whatever is going on between the two of you. And so I feel like calling something that felt like build up to potentially a relationship, whether it worked out, whether it didn't, is dating inherently.
Yeah. But it's funny because I feel like nowadays people kind of disregard the casual dating phase, and I feel like it's more talking stage relationship. People are like, are you talking to them? Are you in a talking stage? Guys.
What is talking?
Rage bait.
Bro.
Like, please.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Do not ask me if I'm in a talking stage. I will actually crash out. I will like...
Bro, no. Because I'm talking to Jalen right now. Are we in a talking stage?
Maybe. It's
No, we weren't going to tell them yet.
No, not yet. It was going to affect the podcast.
Me and Jalen have actually been married for 7 years. Fun fact. We had a fake wedding in 7th grade.
We did.
And we've been married ever since. Aww. And it's been going strong. So if anyone can give you relationship advice,
it's us.
Yeah, because we've been in a long-term 7-year marriage.
Going strong.
Have we been friends for 7 years? We're getting so off.
We are.
Wait, I just want to quickly do the math side note.
Well, we met in 6th grade. We became friends in 6th grade. How many years has it been?
6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade,
freshman year.
And now almost.
Is it going on 9 years?
Guys, wait, that means we're really old. Wait, no, because we met when we were 11. So yeah, 9 years. Because I'm turning 20.
Maybe we'll do a special episode when we celebrate a decade of friendship.
We
should figure out when our friend-iversary is, too.
We should. It's definitely it's like September, October.
Definitely.
Because we started being friends. I remember distinctly, we started being friends in homeroom. Back to the topic at hand. My first and worst situationship ever, which I don't even know if it's a situationship because it was probably all in my head, mostly in my head.
But delusionship, you mean?
Okay. All right, enough. I think situationship and delusionship or why am I using these words? Okay,
You're falling into the trap.
No. I feel like delusion, like situationship and delusion go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like delusion is situationship's BFF.
All right.
Because most of it is delusion, because you're like left in this confusing place. You're like constantly thinking about and fantasizing and wondering like what if and what we could be, and there's all these unanswered questions, and so your brain is like trying to fill in all the gaps, and you're just deluding yourself into like
delusion fuels you.
Exactly. This is okay. So this was more of like
will they, won't they ship.
Right. But this is a common theme in my life. I will say I have a lot of will they, won't they situations that go on for months and then we never do. But
spoiler,
basically,
they won't.
Well, that's how we're here today. So basically, it was my sophomore year of high school, and I was in this sort of new friend group, and I liked this guy, because this also connects to my first relationship. But basically, this was my sophomore year of high school. I was in English class, and I had this crush on this guy who, like, sat across the room from us, and he would wear, like, these, like, cargo pants, and he was, like, very indie looking, and I was like, ooh, and I was super into that at the time. And so I remember that one of my sort of, like, new friends in my new friend group that was sort of, like, a mutual friend. Like, he wasn't officially a part of the friend group, but I had talked to him in the past. We were friends in 6th grade. I don't know if you remember this. Yeah. But it was the same. Do you remember how, like, when we sat together in homeroom in 6th grade to, like, move us? Or maybe it was English. Yeah. We sat together in English, and she had to, like, move our seats because we were talking too much. Mm-hmm. The same thing happened when she put me next to Osler.
Oh, I remember that. That's how you met, wasn't it?
Yeah. And she just
my gosh.
No, but it was literally just a me problem, because she kept having to move me around the room.
She was
every single time she sat me with anyone, she'd have to move my seat. But yeah, that's how we met. So I had already, like, been friends with him in the past. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I was very comfortable talking to this guy. Like, this is the kind of guy you don't really, like, see as
A guy?
Or, like, I didn't really see him as a guy. I just
Until she did.
He was one...
Nah,
okay,
sorry.
Foreshadowing. No, but he was, like, one of the girls to me. Like, it was, like, not in, like, a mean way, but, like, I saw him as very, like, non-threatening. I don't know, I just saw him as, like, oh, he's just, like, a super chill, kind of, like, I'm very comfortable around him. And this is still, I was, like, 15, so it was at the time when, like, talking to guys was very daunting. Like, even if you weren't interested in them, it was kind of like your personality around guys was altered and different than your personality around girls. But I remember with him, I felt very comfortable, which was kind of rare. And so I remember after class one day going up to him and asking him, like, oh, hey, like, you should come and sit with us next class, and you can bring your friend too, because he sat next to the guy that I thought was cute. And so he was like, oh, yeah, sure. And so I low-key finessed that. And the next day in class, they came and sat with us. And so then I was originally sitting with my friend Ume. And so me, Ume, and those two guys became kind of like a little English class squad. And we would, like, talk all the time, and we all kind of became friends. And I had a thing for this guy, like the cargo pants guy, and the other guy and I just kind of became closer friends. And basically, essentially, to, like, long story short, as I was kind of trying to start something with this cargo pants guy, and so in doing that, I would, like, constantly ask this other guy for, like, advice, because they were friends, and I would be like, oh, like, do you think he likes me? And I'd be like, oh, can you ask him, like, what he thinks of me? And, like, all of the, like, classic first relationship stuff. And simultaneously, he liked this girl that I was, Isler. He liked this girl that was in my friend group that was also sort of, like, he had become part of that group too, but, like, I would help him out and, like, give him advice and stuff, and, like, I'd be like, oh, I can ask her about you or whatever.
This was in high school, right? We're
Yes.
Like fast forwarding.
Yeah, we're fast forwarding, like, over the course of sophomore year. And so eventually both of us get into relationships with these people that we like, not
Scandal.
each other. And we, like, continued talking, whatever, and became really close because we were both having essentially the same issues in our relationships. And so we would talk about it all the time, and we would low-key talk way more to each other than the people we were actually dating. And so that was the first, like, red flag. But at the time, I remember thinking, like, it was so normal and being like, no, like, it's not like that. Like, no, he's, like, my girl. And we'd talk literally so much, and it just got, like, really emotionally vulnerable, which we'll get to as a key element, right, in situationship downfall. But I remember, like, we would, like, FaceTime, and, like, I'd, like, put the phone next to my bed and, like, say really deep things and whatever. And, like, we would, like, talk all the time and, like, basically share all of our, like, thoughts and feelings. And, like, all of the stuff that we should have been doing with the people we were dating, we were essentially doing with each other emotionally, not, like, necessarily romantically, but emotionally. And so eventually it got to the point where, like, it kind of got sus. Like, there were a few moments where, like, something could have happened, or at least I felt like something could have happened, and it didn't. And I remember, this is really bad. This is when it got really bad. He wrote me a song for my birthday. Or, like, he composed something for my birthday or something.
Damn.
And he let me, like, title it, and I titled it, like...
Mind you, a boyfriend would never do this. Only an unrequited lover. Only a situationship would do this.
Actually making my blood boil, guys.
Was it like, I can hardly breathe when you are near?
Stop!
And I'm so scared.
Stop giving me flashbacks. And then there was a tap dance choreography.
Way.
No.
Oh my god, I actually believed it. This girl's life, guys. I would believe it.
But there was a song, and so it got to the point where I was like, oh my god, he's so cool. Like, he writes me music. He's, like, doing all of these things for me. I remember one time, like, I was with my other friend, and we were going to get our nails done. I think it was for Halloween or something. And he just happened to be there after school, and I was like, oh, you have to, I, like, made him come with me to get my nails done. And then
Did he pay for them too?
No, but he went and he bought us bobas. Like, he bought me a boba while I was getting, like, a bubble tea while I was getting my nails done. And I was like, oh, okay. No, but whatever. There were just small things like that. And the fact that I remember all of these little things, like, I just feel like just speaks to how, like, much of an imprint this had on me. And I was like, oh, like, that's when I really started realizing, like, I might like this guy. And so then it got to the point where, like, I was kind of in denial for a really long time, and then I realized, like, oh, I, like, have feelings for this guy. And at that point, our friend group started having some rumblings, some issues, there was some tension, and eventually we did have, like, a big, crazy high school, like, classic friend group breakup. And so when it came to, also, I totally forgot to add.
At what point did you break up with your boyfriend at the time?
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Yes. So I broke up with my boyfriend because it wasn't working out, and I kind of had this realization that I tend to have with a lot of my situationships or relationships or whatever it might be, that I didn't actually like him. Oh my God. And I don't think I ever really did.
There it is. Heard it here first.
Yeah. But I think I was very much, like, I mean, I think this is very common at the time. I mean, I don't think it's as common for, like, a 20-year-old, near 20-year-old to still be having this problem, but I do have a tendency to, and I think at the time the problem was mostly, like, this guy looks very cool and he's giving me attention, and so I must like him back. And he, like, checks off all of these boxes for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have chemistry or we have this kind of thing where we, like, click emotionally. And that's what I was getting from my situationship with this other guy, or my friendship. I was getting this kind of chemistry that I craved in my relationship that I wasn't getting romantically, and so I was looking for it in other places, and I was kind of outsourcing it. And so eventually I broke up with my boyfriend, and he was having sort of the same issues with his girlfriend at the time, where, like, he liked her, but he didn't want to be with her, and it was, like, weird and, like, confusing, whatever. And so eventually he also broke up with his girlfriend, and there was, like, this weird, very brief intermediate period where, like something probably could have happened, and, like, tensions were sort of rising between us, but nothing ended up happening, because after I broke up with my boyfriend, there was, like, a huge friend group explosion, and, like, we basically all stopped talking. And so nothing ever happened, right? So it left this whole situation kind of without closure. And because I never was able to get that sense of closure, it left me kind of wondering, like, what could this have been? And for so long, I just, like, couldn't get over it, because it was like this is something that, like, impacted me so much, and, like, I've never felt like this before with anyone. And for me especially, like, this may not sound like a big deal, because, like, nothing ever did happen between us, but it's really hard for me to have that kind of emotional reaction about someone, and to be able to be so vulnerable with someone and feel accepted, and almost feel as if they understand something about me that nobody else understands. And, like, and I've had that with, like, plenty of friendships, like, I have that with Jalen, but to feel that, and to feel something more, or the potential for something more in that, was, like, something I had never felt before, and I still think that is something very, very rare for me to feel. And so I was like, this is something that I need to hold on to, and this is something, like, that I'm never gonna feel again, or that was my mindset at the time. And so I think that's what really led me to cling on to to it and really see the whole situation through these sort of rose-colored glasses, where like all of the things that were wrong with it, whereas like if like, you know, it had actually played out, if we had actually gotten to a relationship, actually dated, like, and Jalen has had this conversation with me many times, but like it would have never worked out, and like for many obvious reasons. Like there were many issues with me at the time and him at the time, and it just, neither of us were in the emotionally mature enough to handle it and whatever, and it just wouldn't have worked for whatever reason. This part of my brain, because it never actually played out, just kept on holding out hope that like, or holding out this kind of like, oh, but what if, but oh, like we would have made it work because our like emotional connection was strong enough and whatever. And so just like leads to this whole other realm of delusion. And I think that at the end of the day, a situationship is just getting so obsessed with that delusion and that fantasy, because nothing is actually happening, because there's no label, and because you're not actually experiencing the other person's true colors. You're just experiencing your idea of what could happen, which is always going to be, no matter what, an idealist idea. And it's going to be perfect in your mind because you're creating it. And so it's going to be meeting all of your standards and whatever. But that person is a fantasy, essentially.
Lucia definitely put it perfectly. I think that one of the reasons, well, probably the reason why situationships are such big deals in our minds and why they're so difficult to get over is because you actually never saw the true colors of said person. I mean, I guess at the very end you might have, but you never actually got to see the relationship through. And I think that's what made my situationship so painful. And we're going to get into it.
Segueing
to mine. I did talk about this in a previous episode very briefly, but obviously for those of you who haven't watched, I'm just going to recap it. So my situationship was this year, and it all started when I was scrolling on TikTok, as one does, and this video of this very pretty girl came up on my For You page. Now, normally, obviously, I would keep scrolling, but this video was different because I noticed that the girl in the video had this shirt on, and the shirt had this letter. I won't say it. I don't want to dox her, but it had the first letter of her college on it, and I knew that that college was 10-15 minutes away from my house. And so immediately that caught my attention. I was like, oh, what? So I go on Instagram, I look her up. Sure enough, she goes to said college. And mind you, I go to school about an hour and a half away from that college, away from my house. But still, I hit that follow button. I wasn't really expecting anything to come out of it, honestly. I just thought that she was pretty, thought that she looked cool. So I just hit that follow button. And then a few nights later, so she followed me back. A few nights later, I was a little crunk, and it's 2 a.m.
That's always how it starts.
That's always how it fucking starts. It's 2 a.m. I'm fooling around with my friends, and I'm like telling them like, oh yeah, like there's this hot girl that I followed. She followed me back. Like, should I DM her? And me and my friends, being inebriated and crunk and silly, were like, oh my God, like, let's come up with such a good pickup line for you to slide into her DMs with.
What was the pickup line?
So the pickup line was, she's a hockey player. Are you ice because I fell for you? And it wasn't funny. And it was literally because we were crunk and we, like, AI generated it, and boom, I slide in. So about 2 or 3 days goes by. She doesn't respond. I completely forget about it. Mind you, in the state I was in, didn't remember much. So finally, she responds. And I was like, whoa, like, I forgot that I sent that. And I think that she said something along the lines of, I like the confidence or something. You know, she's like, bold, I like it. So we get to talking, and thus begins the situationship. We start talking, we exchange Snapchats, etc. At first we were just snapping, but then I don't even know how it changed from casually snapping to texting every day, but somehow it did. And before I knew it, we were texting every single hour of every day. eventually she asked me to FaceTime, and anyone who knows me knows I hate FaceTime. Now, this is a very, very important point.
Yes.
I hate FaceTime. I don't like FaceTiming my closest friends. If Lucia asked me to FaceTime, I would probably feel uncomfortable.
You'd probably be like, why?
Exactly.
Like, send a voice memo.
I would make up some bullshit excuse.
We're both voice memo senders.
Yes.
We'll send like a good 4-minute voice memo.
Yes.
But we won't FaceTime ever.
Because my whole thing about...
Actually, we call, though. Now that... Wait, never mind. We call, but the only reason we don't FaceTime is because of the connection. So we
okay, never mind. Lucia's the exception. Lucia's the exception.
Call all the time.
Okay. With anyone other than Lucia, I don't like to FaceTime because it's not on my own terms, in the sense where I don't want to be talking to someone for hours and hours. I mean, I guess unless it's Lucia. Because I often find that those type of FaceTimes, especially with someone you like, turn very mundane. You know, maybe your man wants to be on the game while he's FaceTiming you, or someone just starts doing their bedtime routine while FaceTiming you, and it just becomes like this mundane, like, vlog almost.
I hate it when guys are like, they want to like stay on FaceTime all night or
yes,
something.
or
sleeping
like, take on nap. FaceTime.
Like, at that point, just do it in person.
Right.
Like, if you want to cuddle, whatever, do it in person. Take a nap together. Do it in person. Like,
exactly.
Why do we have to do it? I don't want to watch you, like, drool on your bed, like, through the phone. Like, that's not attractive.
And up until that point, that's exactly how I felt. I remember everyone else that I've been involved with, I either straight up told them, hey, I hate FaceTime, or when they asked me, I tolerated it. I gave them maybe 1 or 2 FaceTime calls, and then I was like, I can never do this again. Made up bullshit excuses, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, point is, she asks me to FaceTime, and after this first FaceTime, something just shifts in my mind. And all of a sudden, I've been converted to a FaceTime girl. Thus begins every single day we're FaceTiming, every night. And at the time, I would say that in the beginning of college, I didn't have a lot of hobbies. My friends and I would play Roblox. There's nothing wrong with Roblox, but we would just play it every single night. And it got to the point where me and Emsler would FaceTime, and she would play Roblox with me and my friends. She friended my friends on Roblox, and I'm sorry, but that is intimate.
Yeah.
You cannot friend people on Roblox unless you mean it.
I mean, that's also just, like, I feel like, as a non-Roblox player, like, following your friends on Instagram or something. Like, following, like, if your, like, situationship is going out of your way to meet your friends in any capacity, even, I think, following, even though that's not, like, directly meeting, that's, like, oh, I care about the people you care about. Yeah. Like, that sends a message to me.
Yeah. So it would be me sitting in my dorm with my friends, and my friends would be talking to her and whatever, and then I finally go home. It's Thanksgiving break, and the first thing I did, I got home on a Friday. The first thing I did was go to her hockey game, and I met her for the first time in person. I remember a few days prior, she'd been like, hey, we were figuring out what we wanted to do, because obviously we wanted to meet up. We're talking every day, we're calling, whatever. There's good chemistry, good, topics of conversation, the whole 9 yards. And she's like, would you come to... Anyways... She says, will you come to my hockey game? Now it gets worse, okay? I don't just go to her hockey game alone to meet her for the first time, because why the hell would I do that? I bring one of my closest friends from my hometown, Kayla. If you're watching this, I love you. Bless your heart. My friend Kayla comes with me to her hockey game. Mind you, her D3 hockey game where there's like 10 people in the stands, and it's a home game. Loser. But I digress. Kayla and I pull up. I'm shaking. I'm so nervous. I was shaking for like the 2 hours, whatever, that she played. And then that night, when I finally met her, when we finally, I think we just drove around, got food, whatever. I remember, and this sounds so sappy, I remember after we kissed, I called you or I texted you and I said something along the lines of like, I felt like I was literally ascending. Like, when I tell you guys, I kissed her and I thought to myself, oh, so this is how it's supposed to feel when you kiss someone. I don't think I've ever felt like that before. Yeah. Which made it really messy in the end.
Honestly, this is very like, I feel like I don't even know where I was going with that. I was gonna say this is kind of crazy, but I feel like I've never felt like that.
Really?
Like,
well, the thing is,
this
you
is the
don't know
right.
what to look for until you feel it, and then you're like, wait a damn minute, have
Yeah.
I ever felt like this before?
Like, I've never had that experience that people talk about when they kiss someone and they're like, oh yeah, like you see fireworks, or like
yeah,
that sort of thing. Has
it just felt like my whole
happened to
body
me.
was like tingly, not even in a freaky way. I just felt like very light, like, you know?
Yeah.
It was so
Can't
crazy. But like, it's so crazy because I would have never known before then, before she kissed me, and I was like, make a mental note of that. Like, that's something to tell Lucia about.
Yeah.
But anyways, so we start hanging out very regularly after that. We're still calling, we're still texting, but on top of that, we're hanging out. We're spending hours on hours together. We're doing different things together. We're still playing Roblox. We're still we would hang out and then FaceTime right after. So my point in all this is that it's a constant stream of attention. It was almost like a dopamine hit. Not almost, like it very much became like that. Like she was my dopamine, and
she became a part of your routine.
She became, yes, which is very important for situationships. But yes, so she becomes a part of my daily routine. And I remember it got to the point where if we didn't call, my mood would be off.
Okay, this is exactly what happened to me with Osler. Because whenever I like remember after everything ended and like we weren't really talking anymore, I specifically remember like the biggest thing that bothered me was the fact that I couldn't pick up the phone and call him.
Yeah.
And like I would constantly have the thought, like the 6 months after or whatever, I'd be like, oh, I really wish I could tell him about this, or I want to like talk to him, I want to hear his voice or whatever.
The only way I can describe it is like quiet.
Yes.
Very quiet.
Yes, because it's a part of your routine. It's a part of like whenever I like felt like I wanted to share something with him, I just couldn't. And like that was like, why did this have to, like, this is something that became so regular and so comforting to me that was just kind of like ripped away.
I think that that's the most unfair part of it, is that this person will become such an integral part of your routine, and then the rug will just be ripped out from underneath you, and you have to formulate a new routine. You have to pick up the pieces, and you almost don't remember what your life was like before this person was part of your routine, which sounds so dramatic, but that's just genuinely how I felt. Because moving on, after about like 1.5, 2 months of us, talking, hanging out, whatever, all of a sudden we stopped talking. And it was so weird because when I try to think about it, I guess the only thing that happened, actually, I should mention this. A week prior to when we started talking, when we stopped talking, we were hanging out, and I finally worked up the courage to ask her, because I don't know, I just felt like things had gotten very intense very fast. And I am the type of person who, like, I'm not one to get tricked by people. Like, Lucia knows this. I talked about this when I mentioned this story previously. In the beginning, I was very, very skeptical. And so I'm not the type of person to let myself get played. And because of that, I'm
stepped all over.
Yes.
Which is important, because I feel like you are someone with very high standards and you're not going to settle for less. And she was someone who was giving you everything that you wanted.
Yes.
And was meeting all of those standards up until now.
Yes. And this is the very important piece. Like, this relationship was objectively perfect until it wasn't. I think in the situations we're going to talk about later, there's kind of telltale signs, like a person's not meeting your standards, whatever. She met every single one of them. And as soon as I realized that, I had this conversation with her. I was like, hey, do you see us, becoming official? Not right now, but maybe in the coming weeks, maybe, another month, whatever. And she said yes. And looking back, I remember she did hesitate. Maybe that was like the one and only sign, is she kind of was like, yeah. But it was like a 1-2 second hesitation, But what, am I supposed to take that as a sign?
Right.
When someone says yes?
Exactly.
No. And then I remember we even talked about her ex, which is very important. She had gotten out of a relationship in early September. We were talking end of November / like mid-November. Actually, more like all of November. And I remember I asked her, I was like, do you think you're over your ex? And she was like, yeah, I think I am. So fast forward.
The way I remember also, like, you telling me the way she answered that, and she was like, yeah, I think I am. But it was like she like hesitated, or like her like tone was weird. Yeah. Which is like also with things like that, I feel like, yeah, it might be a sign that she's like unsure, whatever. But I think like in my mind at least, like I try to like take their word for it until they prove me otherwise.
Because it's exhausting to have to dissect everything someone says and look for signs and stalk their reposts and check their location. Like, I don't want to be that kind of a person.
Right.
So maybe it's naive, but everything someone tells me, I'm going to take at face value. If you tell me you're over your ex, I'm not going to be like, but she said I think, but there was 3 seconds of hesitation.
You shouldn't have to do that.
I shouldn't have to.
If you're doing that, you're doing too much work. Like, it shouldn't be all on you to be keeping the other person in check. If they really want to be there, they'll be honest with you. They'll be upfront with you, and they won't be, you know, going after someone else. And if they are interested in or going after someone else, like, that's a sign to you that they're not all in.
Exactly.
Like, that's not something that you should be preventing them from. Like, let them.
Exactly. The let them theory.
Let them theory. No, period. But I truly believe in the let them theory. Which is why I think it was really good that, like, at the time, like, you just took her word for it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Rather than being, like, skeptical and, like, whatever.
Exactly. And we had explicitly said that we were exclusive. We were in an exclusive relationship and we were dating. We just weren't officially girlfriends. But anyways, I digress. So about a week after that, just on a Monday, she just stops talking to me. And I found it weird that she hadn't texted me good morning or anything, you know, because that was, again, part of her routine. She would practice for hockey at around 6 a.m. And every single morning, it wouldn't necessarily be good morning, but it would be like, oh, I just fell in hockey, or like, I just did this, or how are you, or whatever, you know, some sort of text. And so she didn't text me. And I remember talking to Lucia and I was like, should I text her? Lucia was like, no, like, let's test. Let's see how long it takes her to text you. I literally think it was 48 hours, maybe like slightly less. But by day 2, I was fed up. I was like, what's going on? Like, mind you, no contact at all. No Snap, no TikTok, no text, no FaceTime. All points of contact were cut off and nothing out of the blue had happened. The night prior, we were on the phone until 3 a.m.
Right.
So, you know, imagine my shock. But I finally, Lucia tells me, she's like, you just need to call her. Like,
I feel like before that, though, this is where the reposts come in.
Sorry, I forgot a very important point. So I did say before that I'm not the type of person to want to stalk reposts.
Right, but when you've had no contact for 48 hours and you get a little, like, you want answers.
Right. And also, she was the type of person who would repost things and then unrepost them, which I always found weird. But it was nothing like out of the blue, you know? So anyways, I check her reposts because I'm like, what's going on? And it's all reposts that are sad and are about breakups / exes. And I'm scrolling through them. I wish I had my phone on me right now. I would show you guys. I think one of them was like, and I know I don't deserve a second chance, #TakeMeBack. I specifically remember that one of them had the hashtag on the caption, #TakeMeBack. Anyways, it was like 3 of those. And then I would check back in an hour or 2 and some of them would be deleted. And then she would repost other things.
So dumb to me because, like,
so dumb.
If you're reposting them, it's because you want people to see them.
Attention whore.
Attention whore. Exactly. Otherwise, you would have just liked them. Like, you can like a video. You don't have to make it public for all to see that you're in your feels. Like,
right.
We don't really care.
Have you ever reposted something that maybe it alludes to the fact that you're in your feels, but have you ever been reposted something that's like, take me back, I miss you so much, come back?
Right. Like, I would never post that unless I wanted the person that I wanted back to see it and, like, feel bad for me or something.
Also, I'm just not the type of person who tells people what my life is like through my reposts.
Right. If anything, my reposts are something that, like, I think about, because, like, you calculate in your head before you post something on your story, before you repost something, like, it's no different. Like, you're thinking, like, these are all the people that could possibly see this.
Right. This is how they're going to perceive it. Exactly.
And
again, it's not like we're not friends on TikTok or anything. She knows that I'm going to see it. She subconsciously or very consciously wanted me to see it, which I think is really fucked up. Right. But anyways, so I call her. I wish I had the call to play. The call basically consisted of me being like, hey, are you okay? You just fell off the face of the earth. You haven't texted me. You haven't whatever. When I tell you, this woman was so nonchalant, it was appalling. I was shocked. Bro. She was just like, yeah, like, I'm fine.
And the key thing is that she wasn't normally like this. Like, she wasn't nonchalant off the bat. This was like how she was acting.
Spur of the moment, nonchalant. So like, it was so odd.
I remember you telling me specifically, like, oh, she's very chalant. She kind of matches my energy. She's very, like, extroverted, this and that, whatever. She, like, is funny and all of these things. This call was the first time I actually heard her voice, and it made me, like, I was like, are you sure? Or, like, are we talking about the same person? Yeah. It's like, whoa, like, because she sounded so dry and just so different from how Jalen had described her earlier.
It was so crazy. It was like a flip had switched and she was fully blocking me out. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced, and I think that's why I still can't wrap my head around it. But anyways, the gist of this call was just her, you know, being super dry and being like, yeah, like, I'm just stressed with finals. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, do you want to stop talking? Like, I'm so confused about what this is. And she was just like, I just need some time alone. Like, I need to be by myself. She was like, oh my God. I distinctly remember, though, she did say, it's not you. I like you a lot. I just, like, need to be by myself. And I don't even know how to take that, because clearly you didn't like me that much if you have this lack of respect, or you did like me, you just didn't respect me.
Right.
Either outcome is terrible.
And clearly she doesn't want to be by herself if she's reposting constantly about her ex.
Right. So basically the gist of this call was her just lying to me. So we theorized, so we discovered. And it was about like a 2-3 minute call. And then I was like, all right, well, enough said. You know, I didn't beg her to stay. I didn't argue, whatever. I just ended the call, and we have not talked since. Which is crazy. It just went from 0 to 100 to 0.
Right. Insane. Which is definitely it's also, I feel like, a different kind of situation.
Yeah, I would say that what happened to me is the worst case. I think that we have this written down. Situationships are on a bullshit scale.
Oh yeah, it definitely depends on how much bullshit you can handle.
And I think mine is at the very tippity top of the bullshit scale.
Right. Because it's one thing if someone keeps, like, continuously lowballing you, like, versus, like, a love bombing kind of situationship where they're, like Jalen went through, like, meeting all of your standards and giving you constant attention and becoming a part of your routine in a way, and really, like, embedding themselves into your life. Because if you're someone with high standards that respects yourself, whatever, knows what you want in a relationship, and you're getting all of that from this person, there's no reason for you to end it. And if they're continuously giving you reasons to hold out hope and to think, like, yeah, this could be something more, I want this continuously in my life, then you're going to, you know, they're more capable of stringing you along for as long as they want you around. But just because they're meeting all of your standards doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be capable of doing that in an actual, like, relationship setting. Because as we know, people can be very manipulative. Yeah, but I feel like that's just one of different kinds of situationships that can occur.
Yeah.
And we've compiled a little list for you guys.
So, Lucia and I have compiled what we have named the bullshit scale. How much bullshit are you willing to put up with? Let's find out. So we have the low end, the middle end, and the high end, the red zone, if you will.
Yes.
So the low end of the situationship bullshit scale is that they're just not meeting the bare minimum. They're disregarding your standards because they know they can get away with it, and the more you let them, the more they take from you. I would say that the middle, the next category, is what we hear most often with situationships, it's the breadcrumbing.
I can speak on this.
Well, yes. It's very off and on. So almost a bipolar kind of
it's kind
situation.
of like love bombing, but kind of
but
not.
Then they take it away from
right.
you. Very often
it's like, right. It's either like really, really intense or they're giving you nothing. And this kind of like will they, won't they situationship is what keeps you hooked and in constant need of their validation. Because if you are having a very negative emotional response to it when they take it away, then you immediately crave it again. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of in this situation, I think it's very tied to your self-worth. Yeah. Because you're kind of constantly thinking about like, oh, like, did I do something? Like, why did they pull away? Yeah. And like, why are they? And then all of a sudden they want you again, and you're like super happy, and it's like a dopamine hit. And then they stop talking to you, and you're like, wait, there's something wrong with me. Like, they don't like me enough, whatever. And so you become very tied to whether or not they want you, rather than whether or not you want them. And that just becomes doesn't even become a question anymore. And yeah, and so you become very emotionally dependent.
Like they're conditioning you.
Exactly, like they're training you like a dog.
Ring a little bell.
Come bark, get a treat. Dog. Bark, bitch. Okay.
Anyways, the high end is what I just told you guys. I would say love bombing. You're completely tricked by this person. You could have the highest of the high standards. This person's meeting them, but something happens and you realize that you were completely wrong about them. And they did such a good job in tricking you, which I think is the scariest because to me, that just kind of creates trust issues. And that's, I can't tell you guys how to fix that. I don't even know how to fix it. Bro. Lucy and I are still stunned.
Right. I feel like with this one, it's like either they think they can handle something that's more than they can actually handle, or the scary possibility is that they know exactly what you want and they give that to you in order to keep you strung along for as long as they feel like stringing you along.
To get whatever they want out of you, whether that be attention, intimacy, I don't know, validation.
Right.
It's scary.
But that one, I feel like it's the easiest to be blindsided.
Yes.
Because, like, you never see it coming that they'd pull away. Mm-hmm. And then when they do, it's like...
It's 10 times worse.
Right. Trust issues. I feel like with middle, you kind of blame yourself more. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like this kind of leads to my second situationship story.
Oh, yeah. Tell them.
Which, okay. Basically, let me set the scene. It's my freshman year of college. And
it was 3 months ago.
Like 1 month ago. Wait, no. But this is beginning of freshman year. So like actually 10 months ago, guys. But basically, I meet this guy. Second day of orientation.
Wait, sorry, before you continue, I just want to say before we came to college, I always heard about the freshman year situationship, and I just want to confirm that that's true. I didn't believe it, but I feel like people say the freshman year situationship. I've also heard about the 19-year-old situationship.
I thought you meant my freshman year, like freshman year of high school situationship. Like I didn't stop talking about it until my freshman year of college.
No. Like I've just heard that like your freshman year situationship.
Cut that out.
Never mind. Yeah. Tell your story.
No. You always hear about like the canon event.
Yes,
like,
the canon event.
And
I went into freshman year not believing it.
So
I was like, no way.
I was like, I'm gonna be the one exception to that. I'm gonna have a boyfriend freshman year.
I'm gonna be the 1%.
Exactly, and that's where my story begins. So basically, I meet this guy. And he shows interest in me. And so immediately, my ears are perked. Boner alert. But dead ass, guys. I don't know. I think it's just a thing that, like, comes with age. I think when you're young and you don't have as much experience, you take male validation very seriously. And it's, like, very hard, honestly, to distinguish. Even though I've made this mistake time and time again, I think it's still really hard for me to distinguish whether I like someone or whether they just give me attention. And so with this situation, this guy gave me attention and I was like, oh, he's like different and cool. And so we start this sort of weird on again, off again friendship where like he like is showing signs that he likes me. Like he'll do something very blatant that is like he seems like he's like hitting on me. Like I remember I told him that I did art and he like showed up to my dorm and like knocked on my door and was like, "Oh, I wanted to like see your art."
Oh, this was a very big thing in this situationship. It was always Jaisler knocked on my door. He knocked on my door today. He came to my door. This man, yes. I think that he just put in a lot of in-person effort, which impressed you.
Which impressed me because I feel like something else that tends to impress a lot of girls and to stand out to us is when a guy acts different than guys have acted towards you in the past. Just because, like, let's be honest, like, guys tend to pull the same moves.
Especially at this age. It's kind of very predictable, and I think if there's one tiny little thing that differentiates one guy from the rest, you cling to that.
Right. And you're like, oh my God, he must be like special or like worth my time in some capacity. And so I remember being impressed that like, oh, he's knocking on my door. He's like, you know, inviting me to do all of these things, hang out with him like in person, and rather than just like texting me or like whatever. And I really liked that. And, like, he would show interest in the things that I liked. And he worked at, like, an art museum. And I was like, oh.
Moral of the story is that Lucia is into very indie artsy guys. Ugh. And when one gives her attention, it's raps.
No! Okay. But I'm changing that, guys. From now on, it's only conventionally attractive, sporty guys. Yeah. Come my way. Hit me up. No, but, yeah. Apparently, that's my type. So, immediately I become very obsessed, and or I guess I didn't even start out that way. I was very like chill about it in the beginning, and then I remember he started giving me these mixed signals because I remember thinking like right off the bat, oh, I have this in the bag, and like he likes me and like whatever, and like it was very clear to me that he had a thing for me. And
if you guys take anything from this episode of the podcast is never be too confident in someone else's feelings for you. Never think that you're ahead of the game because
we're out here giving people trust issues.
No, not actually, but just be aware. Be cautious.
I think it's good to give people the benefit of the doubt. No, I think it is because I mean that's how you learn too. Like you gotta get a few battle scars.
That's true. That is true.
Right, exactly. So anyways, he shows a bunch of interest and I'm like, okay, cool. And all of a sudden he like starts doing this thing where he'll like show a lot of interest and then all of a sudden he'll stop showing interest or he'll do something completely contradictory to that, like friends to like sort of friend zone me. And so I remember this is when I started sort of talking to you about it, is when he started giving me these mixed signals and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And I remember I even asked I was on call with Uma and Austin was there.
Three-way call or something?
I don't think you were. I think I told you about it. No, because I was on a phone call with my other friend Uma and her boyfriend was there, and I remember asking her boyfriend for like a male perspective and being like, oh, what do you think? And he was like, genuinely, I have no idea. He was like, this guy is like so weird. I have no idea.
Wait, sorry. I just realized, you know what it was? It was that I talked to Jaisler about someone and that's when we were on a three-way call.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just like had that crazy memory. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
He even met Jalen.
Yeah, okay. This is a big theme. These people are meeting our friends.
Yeah.
No more.
Yeah, no more. Don't let them in. Guys, don't take anything we're saying seriously. We don't have this figured out. Just so you know, like disclaimer, don't take any of our advice. Like we're standing in solidarity with all the other girls.
Take what fits with your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Take what resonates.
Take what resonates. It's a good way to put it. Yeah, so basically to give an example of how he would be sort of off and on, I remember this one night he called me. I was like having dinner with my friends and he called me and he was like, oh, like there's some sort of like Pink Floyd. I remember that stood out to me. So I was like, oh, he's so indie. He was like, there's this like Pink Floyd something cover band, like whatever.
And immediately Lucia was sold.
Like, yeah. And so I obviously squirted all over the place and I was like, yeah, I want to go with you. And this was like this was like a late night event, so it was very much date vibes. And I remember him being like, yeah, it's at like 8:30 or something, and I was like, okay, perfect. And it was that night, it was that same night. And so after dinner I was gonna go and meet up with him. Maybe 10 minutes tops later, he calls me back, he cancels, because he had this like other thing going on where he had to like, he did this like weird like outdoorsy, it wasn't weird, I have a lot of friends that do it actually, but he did this like outdoorsy like thing that we have at my school, because we are literally in the middle of nowhere, and he basically had to go on all of these like camping trips and stuff all of the time. And so he like apparently had to go on one of these things that night, and he like didn't realize or something, and so he was like, never mind, I can't, which is super weird, because you could have known that, like you would have known that before
check
you
their
asked
schedules
me.
before they make plans.
Exactly,
especially with someone that they're interested in.
Exactly, so it was really odd. And then he was like, oh yeah, and by the way, there's someone I want to introduce you to. And I was like, huh? And he was like, I met this really cool girl in my OE thing, which was his like camping thing. And he was like, and I really want you to meet her. Which is like, what?
I'd be sick. Sick.
He was like, I met the coolest girl ever. And like, obviously.
And she's not you.
Right, and she's not me. And I remember also later him being like, yeah, she really reminds me of you. But it was like, what? What does that even mean?
How dumb can you be?
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Like, there's no way you can say that, like, completely obliviously with a straight face and not think, like, if this is someone you like, if this is someone you're interested in, yeah, I'm gonna tell them I met another really cool girl. Like, what? So it was just very weird stuff like that, where immediately after I was like, okay, he just friend-zoned me. And then I remember calling Jalen and being like, yeah, no, he doesn't want me. And then 5 seconds later, he'd do something else to like...
And we would debunk these things for, I kid you not, 3 hours, and we'd go back and forth. What does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah,
like,
we'd be like, wait, but it could have meant this. Wait, but it could... Wait. And like, it just got to the point where like it was constant back and forth. He'd keep doing something to like show interest, and then he'd immediately take it away, or like take it back in some way, or do something else to throw me off. I was just like, what? And so after all of those mixed signals, it got to a point where like my validation and my like self-worth was so tied up with how he felt about me. And I remember like it was all I could think about, and I literally like, he like, whether or not he texted me, or whether or not he talked to me that day, or whether or not he said hi to me. Like, I remember there was this period of time when like we didn't talk for like 48 hours, and I was like, there's something going on. And then I walked by him and like on campus, and like he like waved at me, and it was really dry, like he hates me now, or like whatever. And so it was just this constant validation being given and taken away, and given and taken away. And so I'd say this is very much middle breadcrumbing, kind of on the bullshit scale like we were talking about earlier. But where are we even going with this?
I think we're just going over different parts of the bullshit scale. And yeah, I mean, your situation fits really well into it, because like we said before, I think it's a very, like, on one hand, obviously you want to think that you have self-respect to, when that type of thing happens to you, stop it. But in the moment, I think it becomes very addictive, and you start thriving off of this validation. And so like, I don't doubt your self-respect in any way, but I just think that it's a very manipulative situation. Right. And once you're in it, it's kind of hard to take a step back from it and be like, wait, like, whoa, what is going on here? Right. Because you're just so wrapped up.
Because the question of like, do I even want him, never even comes up. It's literally just whether or not he wants me.
Yeah.
And because you're so swept up in that, you don't have the, like you said, you kind of have an inability to step back, and you don't have the ability to reflect on your own feelings and really think about like what you want from this, because you're so tied up in all of this like people pleasing kind of like thing, where you're like, at this point, like, I need him to want me to prove something to myself, to prove that I'm, you know, desirable or whatever it may be. And so with that, I think it's really hard to see outside of it.
Exactly. And when you are in those situations, or I think even when it comes to love in general, outside advice just does not matter. I'm sure there were times when I was like, maybe, telling you this is a little bit weird, but like in the moment, it doesn't matter because you're just so in this cycle. And I'm sure there are moments where I had stuff like that happen to me and you were telling me, Jalen, like, take a step back, whatever. But again, like, you just have to be the one to realize. And so, yeah, it's a weird cycle and it sucks. But I think the only person that can get, yourself out of it is yourself.
Yeah, totally. And it also, it just becomes so addictive. Like, the kind of like not anxiety but like anticipation.
It does feel like anxiety.
It is kind of anxiety.
You know what I saw this video and it was like talking about this whole concept of butterflies and how when you like someone you're supposed to have butterflies.
Right.
And these people were saying that actually the butterflies are just anxiety and you shouldn't feel butterflies around someone and it's warning signs.
I always see like the TikToks that are like, remember, love is supposed to be fun, and it's like clips of like rom-coms and like couples like actually enjoying their company and not like tweaking out about each other, which is like, I think, like pretty valid, like to a degree. I think that like butterflies is like can be healthy, like to an extent, but you shouldn't be constantly stressing about a situation. Like if you're constantly stressed and the stress outweighs the good moments, then there's probably something wrong.
Yeah. But again, I think people get addicted to the stress of it because it's kind of this form of escapism.
Yeah. And it's blinding. And it makes it so that when you're in this kind of will they, won't they, back and forth situation, you don't actually have to commit. You don't actually have to like commit to the same things and like you don't have the same responsibilities that you would in a committed relationship, which leads me to all of this stuff about being an avoidant. And I think with this situation specifically, like what was really interesting was once the stressful aspect was taken away from me, like the second that we actually tried to take things further and like we did end up, coming to an agreement and we wanted to take things further and we wanted to start dating and take the next steps. And then immediately I realized, like, wait, maybe I don't want this. Wait, maybe I don't like him. And it was so weird because once all of that anxiety that I had been so bothered by for so long was taken away, and it was like, I have confirmation that this guy likes me. And
once you got to the easy part of it all.
Right.
You didn't want it.
I didn't want it anymore. And I realized that I had become, so intent on getting him to like me that it just became this sort of like conquest of like getting him to want me. And then once I achieved that, it was like, okay, what now? Like, I don't even really want it anymore because I'm not getting that same sense of validation. Like, I won him over. Like, there's no next step for me because it's not like I ever really wanted to be with him. I was just addicted to this feeling of getting validation from him in any way that I could. And then when it was taken away, it was kind of this freak out of like, why doesn't he want me? What did I do? And so once I knew that he wanted me, I was like, I don't know what to do with this security. Like, I don't actually want to be in a relationship with this person.
I think that during this time, Lucia and I talked about this a lot. This kind of idea of having goals in your relationship, I guess milestones, But then once Lucia got to the end of the milestones, like the goal that she had set for herself was fulfilled. It wasn't like, okay, now I actually want to be with this person. It was just, okay, conquest over, on to the next.
Exactly. And at that point, I was the one that ended up ending things because I was like, okay, like, I don't really need this in my life anymore. Like, I'm not getting anything out of this anymore. This isn't filling the void that it was filling for me before. And so I ended it, and it kind of drove me into this spiral because it made me, and we talked about this a lot, but it made me freak out and like, I thought that like I was avoidant and all of these kind of things where I was like, oh, like I can't hold a relationship down and like why can't I like commit to someone and da-da-da. But I realized it was never about my commitment issues. It was about the fact that I had never liked him to begin with, and it was just kind of this chase for validation. But I think that that's like the root of a lot of these people that call themselves avoidant. I don't think that it's that you're damaged. You know, I think there's this kind of idea that like I'm an avoidant, like I'm like damaged goods.
A lot of people are very quick to call themselves avoidants nowadays, and I don't think
what's your attachment style? And they're all unhealthy.
And like, you guys can't all be avoidants. Like, avoidant attachment is very much a thing. However, you know, a lot of people who are saying that they have avoidant attachment, you know, there's things that had to happen in your childhood. This all stems from childhood.
Right.
You know, like pause. Avoidant attachment is primarily caused by consistent emotional unavailability or rejection from primary caregivers during infancy and childhood. It's not caused because your boyfriend cheated on you.
Exactly.
Junior year.
Loki, that would explain a lot for me. But okay, well, I still don't think I'm an avoidant, because I think when it comes down to it, even if you did go through some trauma when you were little or whatever, you have trust issues, I think that 9 times out of 10, a lot of the people that call themselves avoidant are avoidant in that specific relationship because there is some like emotional issue there with like the other like if you don't like someone enough,
then of course you're gonna feel avoidant. You're avoiding them. You don't like them.
Exactly. I think that was mostly the situation with me, at least. And I think that avoidant attachment style does obviously exist for some people, but I think that a lot of people need to reflect more on like that specific situation, and maybe it's just, you know, not the right person. There's a lot of other reasons that you may not be able to commit. Like you may be confusing liking someone for receiving some sort of validation from them, or them filling a certain role in your life, or like if you're not over your ex and you're with another guy to kind of fill that role or whatever, and you don't want to commit to them emotionally, that may just be because you're using them for something to give you some sort of feeling or fill some sort of role in your life, and you're not actually with them because of the person that they are. And so if you're not actually genuinely, you know, into that other person, right, you're gonna not want to commit. You're gonna have this like blockade between you and the other person emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a common theme in all of our episodes. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is truly the base of everything. And like Lucia said, of course, I'm not saying that if you say you have avoidant attachment, you don't. I'm not trying to, you know, what's the word?
Invalidate.
I'm not trying to invalidate anyone here. I'm just saying that before we blame things that happen to us or external factors, I think that unless there's valid reason for you to believe that you had, you know, something happened to you that caused this avoidant attachment, I think that we need to look inwards, look at the person, look at where we are in our lives. But I think that this leads us to what is the perfect recipe for a situationship. We're just going to rapid fire through this.
Okay.
So Lucia and I compiled this list of, you know, how do you know that you are in a situationship? Maybe I think that it should meet at least most of this criteria. So the first is more than platonic chemistry. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. Right. A situationship isn't your friend. The second you can
is effort. So more than you're used to. So this person stands out to you in some way that other people have not showed you in the past. Like they're giving you something that makes you think that that makes you deem them differently than you did other people in your past.
Third is spending a lot of time together. This could be in person. It could be on the phone. You both are just putting energy into each other, or maybe if you're on, you know, the unfortunately the bad end of the situationship, maybe you're pouring in a lot of time into this person.
Next is becoming emotionally involved,
which stems from the last one.
Right, exactly. And this could be like having emotionally vulnerable conversations with them or opening up to them in any way emotionally. And then
hope for the future, this thought in your head that's maybe, hey, we could be more, we could be official. You start to, once this person is in your life, envisioning what your lives could be like together going forward.
And at that point, your expectations become raised. So once you start thinking of them as this person that you could potentially be with and you could have a future together and whatnot, your expectations for them become that of a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something a bit more official than what you are currently. And you start, at least bare minimum, expecting continuous effort on their part.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that right now, expectations raised, I would say that that's the peak of the situationship. Right. And now we start to go a bit downhill with a sort of lack of reciprocation.
Right.
I guess in my case, it was me initiating a conversation about being together officially and not being met with, you know, an immediate yes or, you know, any other situation of that sort. The person just isn't on your same page, whether you realize it immediately or not.
Right. Or maybe they're not taking that extra leap to have a conversation with you about what you are. Or, you know, they're not making any very forward moves that tell you, oh, this person is into me. Like with my situation at the beginning of freshman year, where like it wasn't clear whether or not he wanted me, whether or not he didn't. And it's just constantly this back and forth rather than this concrete, what are we? Let's put a label on it. Mm-hmm. And then the next one is the rug is pulled.
It's over.
So this is when the rug is pulled from underneath you and they show their true colors.
And your whole fantasy of them, gone, destroyed.
Gone. And sometimes this never happens. Sometimes you don't get closure.
Yeah.
And that's when it really, I feel like, becomes this idea of like limerence and this idea of like this lingering delusion of like what we could have been, which is why I think in most cases having closure in these situations tends to be better.
Yeah.
But
you know what? Most times you're not going to get closure.
Right.
And I think that's what makes people so obsessed with their situationship so many months later and still can't understand it and whatever, because you had all these expectations, you had all this confirmation or these reasons to believe that it was one thing and it wasn't.
And the key thing with a situationship is it never actually played out into a relationship. Mm-hmm. So you have this constant, what it could have been this great thing, but it never played out. So you
just can't wrap your head around, why didn't it play out? What did I do? What happened? You're overanalyzing every single moment shared together trying to get answers because this person never gave you any.
And you still have this sort of delusional idea of what it would have been like if you had gotten into a relationship, if you hadn't said this thing or they hadn't said this thing, or if you know, hadn't stopped talking or whatever it would have been. You have this idea that it still would have been perfect, and that's what you cling on to. Ultimately.
Yeah.
And then, you want to say the last one?
Well, I mean, that's pretty much it, but we did say that a situationship often ends in either ghosting or, if you're one of the lucky ones, they concretely end it, / they're just not ready to further it. And I feel like, or you do, but I feel like if another person ends it, it almost always comes in the form of, I'm not ready for a relationship, I need to focus on myself, or X, Y, and Z, you know, whatever bullshit excuse. I'm working on myself, I have finals, I'm very stressed right now.
Yes, exactly.
Some reason why they can't uphold the commitment and the attention they previously. Yeah, the classic, it's not you, it's me.
Yeah. So that is our recipe for a situationship. Yeah. If any of these things have happened to you, you've probably
condolences.
Been in a situationship.
We stand with you in solidarity. I wish that Lucia and I could sit here and tell you how to either A, spot a situationship from a mile away, or B, immediately get over it. We can't. I don't think that it's possible.
And I don't think that this should lead you to trust people less, or I don't think that's the message we're trying to give. Like, obviously, in some cases, it's impossible to know whether or not you're being played, or the other person doesn't want the same thing as you. I think the best way to know for certain is just to communicate as much as possible.
I agree.
and just set the record straight as early on as you can before you get too emotionally attached.
Go into every relationship with your intentions. Now, of course, it's the person's choice whether or not they respect those intentions or lie to you about sharing those intentions, but at that point, you can't control it. I think that just at the beginning, if you don't know, that's okay, but once you do know, disclose it to them. I feel like you have nothing to lose. And if they don't agree with you, if they don't share your want for something more, then that's not the person for you. And I think that accepting that and being prepared and ready for that is key.
Period. Yeah. And I think that concludes our episode
of Said Podcast.
We hope you guys enjoyed, and
we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.